Hello, this is Daoki the Viking. Last time we had a closer look at how to bully someone in the Clemson. A link to that clip is in the description. And today I'm going to show you the Tier 6 IGN destroyer Shinonome. The Shinonome plays totally different from what I've showed you in the last clip, so let's have a look. I picked today's clip deliberately as it perfectly shows the strengths and weaknesses of this ship, and the casual sailing in the beginning allows me to do some explaining. The Shinonome is a reward ship that everyone can get from doing the honorary service campaign. This campaign is available to any new player at level 10 on their account. Once level 10 is reached, a short clip becomes available, which I recommend watching. There is one piece of information in it that's worth repeating. You can redo finished tasks. Although you won't get the rewards a second time, you do get the pins, and those are required to open up the final task of each chapter. Now, in order to get the Shinonome, you only need one single tier 8 ship of any class or nation, and you will be able to get her. On top of that, you will get an 11-point commander, which is going to be a substantial addition to any new and casual player. On to the gameplay. I try not to get detected by the planes here, as I would like to have the enemy guessing of my whereabouts. The Shinonome has a comparably low health pool, speed, but an okayish detect range that can be brought down to 6.1 kilometers. In this particular battle, I'm up tiered to tier 8 and there is a carrier. I guess it can't get any more difficult. I did set my course to the right flank to avoid an early engagement, as this ship does not perform very well in gunfights. The 6 guns turn terribly slow and have the highest reload amongst all tier 6 destroyers. The guns, however, are IGN 127mm and therefore feature the second highest base high explosive damage on this tier, a trait which I will be able to show you a bit later in this commentary. At this point, we lacked crucial information of the enemy team. Our carrier has not yet scouted the area, and so it is upon me to provide vision for my team. I do spot the Queen Elizabeth and intend to flank and ultimately torpedo her. As she gets detected, she turned away, and so I continue my pursuit. We do already know that there is no threat of being caught off guard by an enemy destroyer, as both of them have been detected already on our left flank. I myself am still not detected, which means that the enemy most likely has no idea of my current position. We do see that the Queen Elizabeth is completing her evasive turn due to incoming fire. As I expect her to disengage, I start to focus on the enemy cruiser in front of us. Both ships make a rather questionable move here, as they give full broadside to my allied ships right behind me while being detected. As the cruiser starts to also turn away, I do realize that the Queen Elizabeth turns once more toward my team. I immediately react, and as a result of that, I'm going to try to get off my torps to export some of that Japanese culture that this ship is carrying with her, and I do check with the torpedo lead indicator and I send a total of 9 torpedoes. That's the highest amount on this tier for a destroyer, and they rush towards her while I try to shadow the Nürnberg in front of us. Each of the torpedoes can hit for a maximum of 16k, resulting in an insane alpha strike potential of 131k, enough to sink almost every ship up to tier 8 with one well-placed volley. Now, as the torpedoes approach the Queen Elizabeth, let's take a moment of silence for this battleship player.
It was at this moment that he knew. He f***ed up.
And as the Queen Elizabeth catches my final torpedo, Her Majesty gets sent back to port, allowing me to focus once more on the Nürnberg. Now, the Nürnberg, seeing his fellow captain exploding, he apparently felt that his great moment is about to happen, where he's now charging towards us. I do drop torpedoes towards where I think he might be going, but my carrier unfortunately prompts him to turn too early, and guessing that he might turn back after the strike, I drop the final set. However, once I realize that the torps are not going to hit, I decide it is time to show off the damage potential of these IGN guns. I smoke up to not risk any damage and land 2 good volleys, breaking some modules as well. And as we take aim, we see friendly fire coming in, and we do get a final volley off, which hits for an amazing 3.6k, sealing the fate of this poor cruiser. I also realize that the carrier gets spotted and identify him as the biggest threat on this flank. His planes are going to spot me constantly from here on, and the anti-air on this ship is the worst among all tier 6 destroyers. Thanks to the poor range of 1.5 kilometers, it actually feels as if there are no anti-air guns mounted at all. At this point, I'm just glad that the Irian behind me is not just sitting back, but actively pushing with me due to the anti-air she provides for me. With the remaining seconds of my speed boost, I try to reduce the distance to the carrier as quickly as possible, which seemed to also have surprised the carrier player. His planes in this instance were not ready to strike me when I get spotted, so he focused on the ships behind me, which helped us to get away here. I do watch the 2 tier 8 battleships carefully as they approach. Especially the Bismarck is a major threat. The hydro she brings is going to detect me regardless of whether there is an island between us or whether I drop my smoke. And we see the carrier tries again, but can't get his planes to drop their payload onto me. Also, bringing AP bombers to sink a destroyer is also a questionable decision. Realizing that the Bismarck figured out my play, I decide it's worth risking some hit points. I open up with my guns and check the situation. My smoke is almost ready again, the Bismarck is still outside of her 5 kilometer hydro range, and my speed boost will be ready as well once the carrier is dealt with. I hoped to get a fire started, as this is what the Vikings enjoy doing. I dodge the AP bombs, mitigating any possible damage, and afterwards introduce myself to the carrier in a proper fashion. I quickly close the distance, and I do decide sending 2 sets of torpedoes is enough, while the remaining one is sent towards the Bismarck. She has hydro activated, as we can see, and will spot them, but she will still be forced to slow down and make an evasive maneuver or catch all the torps. I use my last smoke consumable and eventually are going to evade the hydro just as the carrier tries to drop me with torpedoes. The torpedoes go left and right, and we disengage as fast as possible. At this point, my torpedoes are still on cooldown, and the Bismarck is no longer detected. I do get once more detected by the enemy aircraft as they come out of the smoke, ready to drop me, but we are too far away. We see some secondary shells landing next to us, and once the bombers are shot down, we are dark again. Right when I was about to turn, enough for the torpedoes, I feared that she will catch up again. At this point I do not want to risk the ship, as this would give the enemy an advantage on this flank. I therefore sail away in a straight line, preparing to send more torps once the Bismarck dedicates herself to a turn. The game is pretty much over at this point. My team has a good point lead and has 6 ships more than the enemy. As the Bismarck now moves out of torpedo range, there is not much I can do unless he starts pushing again. Firing my main guns would give away my position, and her secondaries would eventually shred me. As the Bismarck turns around and tries to disengage, she is now out of my range for good. I therefore decide to turn as well, providing vision and searching for an opportunity to strike again. At this point, it is time for some crucial decision making again. So if we observe what's happening on this side of the flank, we see that there are essentially 2 tier 8 battleships that both of them are very dangerous for me. So we definitely want to stay undetected, but we also want to get into this favorable sweet spot where we could potentially send torpedoes to the left or to the right and maybe catch them off guard. So I figure out that the best way to do that is by getting closer to the island. The key on our left is probably going to angle towards my team. We see that my team has formed a wall of ships right in front of her, and yes, we see the key is facing towards my team, trying to mitigate as much damage as possible, which might give me the opportunity to land a good torpedo strike on her. So as I approach the island, I focus on the torpedo lead indicator and sending torpedoes. I see that the key is slowing down and I unintentionally bump into the island. However, I do quickly capitalize on that. I use the last smoke that I have and I bring my guns into action. They are still IGN 127mm guns and they are going to hurt if I can land them on the superstructure. As my team engages the key, she started to move forward again, which causes my torpedoes to miss. Unfortunately, we do not land any fires there. And the reason why I'm not staying in smoke here is because the key is one of the rare battleships that has torpedoes with her. And as I've seen her guns rotate slowly towards me, I figured she might be sending torps. So I focus once more on the Bismarck, try to get away out of the line of torpedoes, and we see the key taking heavy damage. It is a matter of seconds now before her fate is sealed as well. So that means once the key is out of the way, the Bismarck is the only ship that's left. And yes, we see our friendlies landing huge amounts of AP shells on her, and eventually she gets sunk. There are also the torpedoes that I expected. They were right where I expected them, so it was good that we moved out of the way. My own torps unfortunately do run out very close before hitting the Bismarck. The prediction was perfectly right, and at this point I do try to get closer to her. The torpedo range is just 8 kilometers, so we need to get a little bit closer before we can get to her. I also need to be very careful here. Any detection here might also seal our fate, as we have very little hit points left. And I try to catch up to the Bismarck. I will probably not make it. What we're going to see here is a very accurate depiction of what happened in 41, where a total of 2,800 shells had hit the Bismarck before she got sunk. So we see volley over volley hitting the Bismarck. My 5 friendly battleships are doing a great job here. I do send another set of torps, but the chance of them hitting is very low and the Bismarck gets sunk. The game finishes. I almost broke 100k with just pure alpha damage from torpedoes and my guns. We did not cause a fire. We had 3 floodings but no damage from that. We still topped the scoreboard, and that without any meaningful damage from other sources such as fire and flooding. If you were to add those to the mix, it is very easy to break 150k in this tier 6 destroyer. On to my captain and the modules I have used. For the basic 10 points, I go with Priority Target, Last Stand, Survivability Expert, and Concealment Expert. Once I have picked all the essential survivability skills, I go with Torpedo Reload, Adrenaline Rush, and the last 4 points into Radio Location. You can use this commander basically on every IGN Torp destroyers. For the equipment, I go with Main Armament Mod 1 and Engine Boost Mod 1. If you can't spare the coal, then I recommend using Engine Room Protection. Third slot, Torpedo Tubes Mod 1, and the final slot, Propulsion Modification 1. Additionally, I recommend picking the standard fire and flooding signals, and that's it for today. This is how I play the Shinonome. Thanks for watching. If you like the clip, please subscribe and hit the bell icon. I will provide regular guides and how-to videos for World of Warships. If you want to become a shipmate, then you can make use of the link for the EU server on the screen. I stream on twitch.tv/daoki. Watch out, it's written with a 0 instead of an O. See you next time.